Hey guys, what's up? My name's Todd, and today we're taking a look at Magic the Gathering Duels of the Planeswalker 2012. This is an Xbox 360 title that you can download on the Xbox Live Arcade, or you can get it on Steam for the PC. So it's pretty fun, and it's basic in terms of the overall scope of Magic. If you're, a tournament player, this probably isn't really going to be like super awesome for you. But if you just play it casually or you're just learning, this is really, really fun. Because some of the online game modes that they have are a lot of fun. Even the single player experience is kind of cool. But what I like to do in these videos is cut down the deck to 60 cards for a better one-on-one experience, and I might make a few comments as far as like what might be applicable in a arch enemy environment. But let's get started on this. So we're looking at the Jace deck, and I just went ahead and added every card that you unlock. And I'm just going to start over here on the left and work my way through cutting out cards until we get down to 60. So the first one that we have here is Curfew, and that is not too bad. It's a lot better if you have four of these in your deck, because you have a really likely chance of drawing it early on. And late game, you're going to end up excuse me, going against people that have 2, 3, 4 creatures in play. And playing a card like this when you only have 2 in your deck, you're not really going to be able to have any say in what they return to their hand. So I actually cut Curfews out. If I had 4 in the deck, I probably would play them. But the chances of drawing, one early game is pretty unlikely. Target creature gets neg 1/0 until end of turn, draw a card. Yeah, we cut that out. The Phantasmal Bears are sweet. I know the whole if they get targeted, sack it, but there's not much in this game to where if it's not targeting, it's going to kill it anyway. There are a couple things, but they're unlikely to happen, and yeah, you're not really at a disadvantage. So having a 2/2 for 1 is sweet. Prosperity, X draw cards isn't too bad, but giving them to your opponent's not really great. If you are playing in an arch enemy game, or you're making your deck to where you play against an arch enemy, this is pretty sweet, obviously, because the net gain for your team is way better than, if you gave your opponent 2 cards and you gave your whole team 6, that's awesome. But in this, we cut it out. This guy's sweet. He's an illusion that can't be blocked, and if you kick him late game, he's bigger. Counterspell, very good for this deck. A lot of the cards in the deck that are win conditions are going to cost kind of relatively low, under 4 mana or 4 mana, and a lot of the times you're going to have mana open up to not only play a spell, but save some to counter. The gain life really has no purpose in this deck, so we cut it out. The Mists are the best card in the deck in terms of what you win with, so we definitely keep those in. Lord of the Unreal Suite, we keep those guys in. Excuse me. Mindspring it's too expensive, honestly, for this. It's not a bad card. It's just for this aggressive deck. In order to get 3 cards out of this, you're gonna have to pay 5 mana, and 4 mana for 2 cards. The versatility just does not matter in this deck, in my opinion. If this deck had more really big late game bombs, I would say, yeah, play it. But the majority of your wins are going to come from amassing a decent amount of 2/2s and the 4/4 flyers and stuff like that. So really doesn't fit the deck. Aether Adepts are awesome. We keep those in. Blind Phantasms are an illusion, and they're not really all that awesome. Other than that, they're a 2/3 for 3, and that is just a lot of mana to have an extra toughness. I actually cut all 3 of those out of the deck completely. Cancels are pretty good. It's about borderline as far as how much you want to pay for counter spells in this. Divination's good. Draw 2 for 3. Phantom Warrior, unblockable Phantom or illusion for 3. That's good. Repulses are extremely useful. We keep those. It's a cantrip, and by that I mean it has a draw card ability, so it replaces itself. Those cards are always nice and handy. Wall of Air has no place in the deck. You're playing an aggressive deck, and whenever you play walls, or defenders as they call them now, your opponent is not going to attack you, a lot of the time. So what that means for you is he's going to have a lot of blockers. And I know it sounds kind of weird, like you want them to attack you, but for the most part, you kind of do, because then that means your stuff goes unblocked. And in combination with spells like Repulse, you can bounce back their blockers that they might have left. Concentrate is sweet. If you remember what I just said about Mind Spring, you had to pay 5 mana to get 3 cards with that. And this, you only are paying 4. And it's just way more economical for this deck, so we keep it in. Disorient it's okay. It's just kind of like, that guy doesn't deal damage to me, but it costs so much. And I know it can be a combat trick. You can use it to kill their guys and stuff like that, but I just don't like it. It costs so much. Phantasmal Dragon is excellent. 5/5 for 4 flying. He has that terrible ability if you if you target it, sacks it, but that's not too bad. It just means, I mean, they can shock it and it'll die. They can use Prodigal Sorcerer or something and it'll die. But like I said, the chances of that happening on a regular basis is not really very likely. So you're in the clear. These guys are pretty cool. They're big beaters. They got a nice defense. So by the time you play them, they're a good defender. I know a lot of the times by the 4th turn, you've taken 5 damage, 6 damage sometimes, and this could be the difference of taking another 6 damage and and going under half-life by your 4th turn. So a lot of times these guys will stop beats against decks like Garrick and stuff like that. So Sword of Temptation is pretty primo. 4 mana, you get to steal a dude. As long as she doesn't die, you keep the guy, so that's pretty cool. Summoner's Bane is a cool spell, but not something that I like in this deck. Not only is it limited to only countering creature spells, but it costs 4 mana, and it's just so rare that you're sitting there with 4 mana open and nothing to do. It's like, I would almost always rather play a card drawing spell or just another creature or 2 or save mana for bounce or any of that stuff than to have this in my hand when I would rather have drew a creature or drawn a creature or something more productive. Even counterspell, I mean, it's half the cost and way more versatile. It just, I don't know, it feels like if you're countering a creature with 4 mana, you're probably already ahead of the game anyway, or it's like there's just other stuff that I would rather have drawn, and without it in the deck, you have a chance of actually acquiring that. Air Elemental, sweet. He's pretty vanilla, but 4/4 flyer for 5. In this kind of meta game, he's kind of cool, and he'll win you some games, so we keep him in. Bribery can be amazing, and it can be mediocre. But I do keep it in the deck because there are a lot of decks where people have a giant win condition. If you're playing against Sarkhan Vol, you have an amazing selection of dragons to take from them. If you're playing against Kiora, you just have infinite selection. I mean, literally, if you play this against them, you win the game essentially. You get like Simic Sky Swaller, by the way. Don't get tempted into buying into getting a Eldrazi, because they'll just Aether it back into their hand, and then they'll end up with like 10 1/1 tokens. But yeah, just 6/6 unblockable all day, untargetable, rather. But yeah, almost every deck has a sweet win condition card that you can get out of there and make it worth your 5 mana. Drake Umbra. This would be cool if you're playing in an arch enemy game where you want to buff up a teammate's creature, but since a lot of your creatures die when they're targeted, it kills your own guys, so this is really not good for you to play. With the lack of targets for your deck, it's just not that great, so we actually kick that out. Evacuation's awesome. It can save you in so many cases, and it can set up a win, because a lot of your creatures are going to cost 2 and 3 and 1 mana. So when you Evacuation, you can reset the board, put out a couple guys, pass the turn, and then they basically have a handful of creatures. And the majority of the decks, unless you're playing against Sorin, their guys are going to be like 2-3 mana. They might get a guy or 2 out, so it really will save you. Jace's Ingenuity is awesome. I might keep this in the deck if I was the arch enemy, but as a normal one-on-one, 5 mana is getting really. It's kind of too close to where you want to be as far as getting card draw. I know it's an instant, and that is very handy, but it's just a little too expensive and not economical for the deck. So I cut those out. Mind Control, kind of along the same lines of Bribery. Play it on their win condition. Now you have a win condition. It's pretty self-explanatory. Very good. And a lot harder to deal with than the Solar Temptation, which I guess is why it costs 1 more. Quicksilver Geyser is awesome, and it's sweet if you're playing an archenemy where you might amass a little more mana. One-on-one, you know, if you really, really like this card, you could probably cut a Repulse or something to make room for it. I do like it, but I don't like it enough to where I'd keep it in there. And just the 5 mana, I know it's pretty much appropriately costed. It's just kind of too much for the deck, so I cut that out. And that leaves us with 2 more cards to cut out. Time Warp is ridiculous. You have to keep it in the deck. It basically is so many times pay 5 mana, win the game. In Archenemy, it's absolutely ridiculous. Playing against the archenemy and as the archenemy, and in one-on-one, it's just as powerful. So, yeah, we definitely keep that in the deck. Cultural Exchange is cool if you're playing archenemy, like as the archenemy. Because a lot of the times, what will happen, and I was kind of confused when I first saw this in the deck, but after I thought about it for a second, I was like, oh, alright, that's kind of cute. But, basically, you know, you have a few creatures out, they have a few creatures out, you play this, and if you target your own creatures, if they're the phantoms, they die. And then when you target their guys, you just get them, and they get nothing. So it's like, it's kind of cool. 6 mana is really expensive, but if you're the archenemy, it's really cool because you get a lot of lands and things like that. You draw a little more cards than what you're normally supposed to draw, so you have an edge on resources. So I would keep it in terms of archenemy, but as far as playing one-on-one, I would definitely cut it out. So we get rid of that. And then Maho Modi Jin, we just can't do 6 mana for a 5/6 that has 0 abilities. And what that does is it keeps us at 60 cards. The mana curve for the deck stays very nice. It kind of goes up to 3, and then there's a couple 4s, a couple 5s, and then you're done. Excuse me, sorry, I've been clearing my throat like a million times. I'm dying here. But yeah, that's all I got for this deck. I'll more than likely post Sorin, because I know a lot of people have been asking about Jace and Sorin. And then I got a couple videos that I'd like you guys to check out if you ever get a chance. So stick around for those. Alright, real quick, I just want to point out that I got a couple videos here. The top one is another deck reconstruction. This time we're doing Sarkhan Vol, which is the Dragon's Roar deck. It's black-red. And after you actually work it through, it's a pretty good deck. Starting out, it's really, I don't know, convoluted and not so excellent. But after you make some changes, it definitely can get better. The video that I have below that is Orcs Must Die, which is another Xbox Live Arcade title. Way more laid back as far as commentary goes. It's a live commentary. And to kind of briefly explain that game, it's a tower defense game set in third-person perspective. So it's really unique. It's really fun. Both videos kind of different in terms of why you would watch them, I guess, but a little bit of variety. Alright, so yeah, that's about all I got. Thanks a bunch for watching. Really appreciate it. And take it easy, guys.